what inspired you to start something, it doesn't go away. Yes, the execution can be a challenge sometimes, and sometimes the results aren't what you expected or not what you hoped for, especially not as quickly as you had hoped for. But I think just maintaining your focus in terms of what got you to this place. Why did you start this? I think is really just so paramount.
Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. Today, let's meet our guest. It's Hsiao. She is the CEO and founder of Revenue Growth Advisors. She's for small business consulting, thought leader. She's the Entrepreneurship 100 award winner, which I'm not sure what that is, but she's going to explain. But lots of great experience, and the conversation is going to be quite fruitful. So Hsiao, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thank you, Thomas. I really appreciate you inviting me to join you today.
Let's dive into a little bit. Why don't you start with kind of high level, your current endeavor. We'll dive into that a little bit more in the show, but just kind of what are you doing today, and give us your backstory of how you got there.
So I come from big corporate retail. Spent 20 plus years working in various roles. I was at Macy's for a long time as a senior vice or a group vice president in digital merchandising. So that just means that I was part of the team that really kind of launched Macy's.com back in the day. And I was a senior vice president with another $1 billion retailer. I was a chief merchant and head of e-commerce for a marketplace startup. And so all of that kind of brought me to a place of making some decisions and starting something new for myself, which we'll certainly get into more detail on that. But my company is Revenue Growth Advisors, and we are a business consultancy that services and provides results to small businesses. We work with businesses everywhere from zero, meaning pre-revenue, pre-launch, all the way up to about where the federal government maxes out on the small business scale, which is about $50 million in annual revenue. And our services are really very much aligned with what I did for so many years for big corporate retail, which is merchandise assortment strategy and profitability improvement and impact, website strategy, domestic and international overseas sourcing and manufacturing. And then also really working with entrepreneurs and business owners in terms of support for them and their leadership and their empowerment and really understanding and impacting their businesses. So that's what I do. That's what my company does.
Revenue is everything. It fixes a lot of problems in an organization. It fixes the ability to hire, invest, each to the word called profitable at some point. In your kind of journey, though, how have you kind of defined entrepreneurship for yourself?
I think that for me, there's pivotal moments for everyone in kind of their professional journey. For me, it was in the middle of 2020. As we know, that was a pretty impactful year for so many of us in so many different ways. But I was in the midst, gotten laid off. Retail just got hit so hard, and so many of us were losing our positions. And so I very quickly got involved with fractional work and consulting work. I was volunteering for a nonprofit that supports small and minority-owned businesses with free and low-cost business consultancy. And all of that really informed me to a place of, you know what, I've gotten to this place in my career and I want to do this in a different way. I want to do this to support small businesses. I want to do this in a way that empowers me and empowers the people that I bring along on this journey. And so I just kind of, over the course of about 2 years, through consulting on my own and fractional work and the nonprofit work, I just really made this decision that I was going to do this on my own and I was going to do it the way that I wanted to do it. So that's what kind of drove this.
I think a big part of that is mindset. And what is your secret sauce from the mindset perspective to stay resilient, adaptable, if that's how you think about it? But what is your take on mindset as it involves entrepreneurship?
The way I say how I grew up, and what I mean by that is professionally, is being in retail, you're judged and you're gauged in terms of your success on a daily basis. You have it back in the day, and I think still today, everyone calls it the daily flash, which was you knew every morning when you came in how much you sold the day before. And that was really kind of determining what you were going to do that day, whether that meant that you were successful the day before and whatever you were selling and how you were promoting it and how you were marketing it, it was successful, meaning you sold a lot the day before, or if it didn't work. And so what are you going to do about it today? And so coming from that kind of background of constantly assessing your success on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and being held to that, it really imprinted upon me in terms of always looking for results, always looking for something that can ring the register, for lack of a better word. And so, as you mentioned, Thomas, like the first word in the name of my company is revenue, because revenue, first of all, revenue fixes almost everything. If you're not delivering sales and whatever it is that you're selling, then you're not going to be able to do anything else in your business. So revenue first and foremost. And so that kind of background and that kind of mindset of like always being focused on revenue and always being focused on the sales results really was instrumental for me in my professional career in corporate. And now it's the same thing for me in my business as well as for my clients.
Well, absolutely. And in your own kind of journey, right? And you see it with others too, like, you know, or you can take your own journey or what you're seeing with some of your customers you're working with. What do you think are some of the most successful types of skills that you're going to need in business and in entrepreneurship in particular?
One of the things that I've really come to fully comprehend and like fully embrace is this idea of knowing your value. And so knowing your value is so important. Honestly, it's important. I don't care what your role is. You could be, you know, a low-level employee of a company. You could be an entrepreneur. You could be the CEO of $1 billion organization. It doesn't really matter. But like knowing your value is so important because everyone brings their own kind of unique set of experiences and knowledge and wisdom and insight. And so being able to recognize how valuable that is and how valuable of an asset it is to, you know, whether it's your organization, whether it's your clients, it's just so important. And I think that having that kind of perspective, it also helps to inform you in terms of deciding to do something on your own. As we both know, like entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It takes a lot to, you know, whether you want to call it gumption, whether you want to call it like some other words that we're not going to say on the podcast, but like it takes a lot. It takes a lot to make a decision, to recognize a need, you know, a niche, being able to figure out how to address that, actually deliver it. It takes a lot. And so being able to constantly keep in mind like what your value is and what you bring to the table and the value that you serve to your clients or your customers is just so essential. And I think it's really honestly that, from my perspective, the first kind of stepping stone. You can't do anything successfully if you don't know your value. You can't walk down the street in terms of like making steps towards this new initiative for yourself without recognizing and understanding your value.
Maybe in your own journey, let's dive into your kind of path a little bit. What's your proudest moment? You know, it's kind of helped shape your entrepreneurial career path.
My proudest moment, I think about the fact that, you know, probably about a year ago is when I made the decision to start my own company. And that was a journey. It was a journey to get me there. You know, I mentioned it a few moments ago. I had been laid off from my last big corporate job about 2.5 years prior. And did a lot of great things, again, like fractional work, consulting work on more of kind of like a word of mouth, less formal way. And I was doing volunteer work. I actually, crazily enough, I ran for elected office in my town. Like I was doing a lot of things, but I made this decision. And then I was also talking to people about full-time positions. But around about this time last year was when I said, you know what, I'm really excited. Like I'm really, really excited by the volunteer work I'm doing for these small businesses. And I'm really excited by the idea of being like in charge of the destiny for myself and my company and what I'm doing, or for myself. And that was just like making that decision to like making that big step and deciding to launch my own company. And so for me, that was a big step. You know, it is for everyone, but it was a big step to go away from being in big corporate for so many years and then saying, you know what, I'm going to do it my way and under my name and with my experience, with a team of people, and I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. Just making that decision, I think, is a big accomplishment for anyone.
What's your entrepreneurial tip you give them?
Entrepreneurship is, as we both know, is like it's a journey, and it can be a slug sometimes. But I think really just maintaining your focus in terms of what was it that inspired you to do this to begin with? You know, whether it was just you didn't want to have to get a paycheck from someone else anymore, whether it was so you could be home with your family more, whether it was you found this thing and you decided to like make a business out of it, it doesn't matter. But the point is like just really keeping like whether you want to call it your North Star, whether you want to keep it your motivation, whatever you want to call it. But like just keeping that in mind and keeping that like so close to your heart and so close to like just always in terms of your your motivation, I think is just so important, because what inspired you to start something, it doesn't go away. Yes, the execution can be a challenge sometimes. And sometimes the results aren't what you expected or not what you hoped for, especially not as quickly as you had hoped for. But I think just maintaining your focus in terms of what got you to this place. Why did you start this? I think is really just so paramount.